Well, hello. Welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. This week it's been really manic. We've managed to do all sorts of stuff in the garden. There's been loads of digging going on. I've got most of the potatoes in, and I've been putting some more onions in. So I'll show you the allotment as we go through the video. But welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, so of course now I've started to film outside, the wind started to pick up, but I'm not going to show you how to put the potatoes in. Now, as you can see, there's 5 rows here that I've already put in. There's going to be another row here, but at the moment the remains of the spinach is there, so as soon as that spinach is finished, that's going to come out, and I'll be putting another row of potatoes there. Then I'll put another 2 rows of potatoes here, and I'll now show you putting in the next one. Now, the easiest way of putting in potatoes, basically, is to minimise the amount of effort. The ground has got to be well manured and it's got to be well dug. It's got to be nice and fine. Now, this ground here hasn't rotivated particularly well because of the weather that we've had, but needs must. I've got to get them in, so I haven't really got time to rotivate this again. Now, this ground here, as you know, has rotivated really well, and you can see that the ground is really, sort of fine. That's basically what you're after. Now, in here, there's been a number of things put in. I've put in fish, blood and bone meal on top of the ground before I've put them in. I'll show you that in a moment. There's also been a load of chicken manure put in here and other organic materials such as sawdust and also wood chippings, and that's just in the preparation of the ground. And also you need to dig the ground at least a foot or so down to make sure that that the ground is nice and loose underneath. Don't just try and dig the top and then put the potatoes in, because they won't be able to get the roots down and get the nutrients that they need. So that's basically the ground preparation. In addition to all of that, I've also put a lot of wood ash onto the ground, and you can probably see it in this row here. There's a lot of wood ash in the ground here, which really does help the potatoes, and it also deters the slugs. So that's the first 5 rows there. I'll now show you how to do the basically planting the potatoes. Okay, so the first thing I've done is I've dug a hole a foot deep, as you can see, and there's 16 holes in a row, which is over about 28, no, hang on, let me think, about 28 foot, yeah, 26, 28 foot. So the holes are basically 18 inches apart, and the rows are 26 inches apart. This isn't the recommended by Royal Horticultural Society. As I said, what they recommend is 30 inches between the rows and 16 inches between the actual potatoes for main crop, which is what I'm basically growing here. Now, what I've done is space the potatoes slightly further apart by 2 inches, and I've actually put the rows slightly closer together at 26 inches. The reason I've done this is basically just because of the shape and size of my plot, and I want to try and get 12 rows in before I get to the end of there. So basically I normally grow them this sort of close anyway, but so basically what I'm going to show you now is how I put the potatoes in. So the first thing that goes in after we've dug the holes, I dig the whole row out, as I'm just about to show you. Okay, as soon as you've dug all the holes out for the row, it's now time to put the seed potato in. Now your seed potato should look something not dissimilar from that. So you've got the little chits on the side, and what you need to do is put the chits facing upwards. If there's chits on all sides, put the largest ones facing upwards, and I've put them in the hole like that. So I'll now put the rest of them in exactly like that. Then on top of that, the first thing I'm going to do is put some of this, which is just I don't know if you can see that this is basically wood ash and charcoal ash, and basically what I'm going to do is sprinkle that to the side of the potato like that. The next thing I'm going to put in is this fish blood and bone meal, and basically you need, don't touch this with your hands, you basically need about kind of that much, so probably about 2 tablespoons. And I'm just sprinkling that on. I'm not putting it on the potato, as you can see. I've put it just to the side of the potato there, because that's the bit that's going to be hoed back in to the potato. Now, on top of that, I know it's not exactly organic, but I'm also going to put some grow more, and that's basically going to be sprinkled around the top like that. So the potato's there, and I've put all of this stuff around there. So as it gets hoed back in, it's going to end up on top of the potato. Now all that's left to do is do exactly the same to all of the potatoes, and then hoe them up. Now the reason I haven't quite explained yet, the reason why I do it this way is when I hoed this row, so this is a potato hoe here, when I hoed this row up, what you do is you hoe from there, which is about 9 inches short of the next row, so that gets all pulled up on here. I only pull it one way. I don't hoe it this way as well. That'll be later on when I hoe up. So this time when I'm hoeing this one, I'll hoe from there, which is that's the next row there. So I'm hoeing about 9 inches this side of it, and then all of this will go on top of the potato like that. I'll show you how to me doing that in a moment anyway. But what I'll do now is put the rest of the potatoes in, and what I am going to do before I hoe them in is just dust the top with mycorrhizal fungi. So just so you can see, that's the mycorrhizal fungi there. That's the packet, the root grow, and that's what came from the company that I mentioned in the question section, Poma Fruits. And basically all you need to do is sprinkle just a little teeny bit on top of the potato, like that, where the roots are. That's all you need. So as you can see, I've still got that left in there. That'll do the next sort of 4 to 5 potatoes. So you literally need just a sprinkle on each one. So there you go. So as you can see, now I've only hoed it that way, it's basically half the effort to do, because I don't need to hoe it this way again. Now as soon as the tops start to show, if they start to show before the end of May and we're still possibly going to get some frost, what I'll do is just hoe the other way, and then possibly both ways, just to cover the tops again. But that's the easiest way I've found to put potatoes in. Many people do it different ways, but this is the way that I find most easiest and successful. Now, a bit I'm sure you've all been waiting for. This is the parsnip propagator that we made earlier in the year. In here I've got 18 cells to put the parsnips in. Now the way this works, if you haven't seen the episode, look back. It was about a month or so ago, about 2 months or so ago. In here is basically 18 pipes, and in each one I'm going to grow a parsnip, and then when the parsnip is grown I'll take this pipe out, and then I'll be able to put that pipe in the ground, dig a hole in the ground, put that in the ground, and then I can basically unravel the pipe from around the parsnip seedling, and then take the pipe off, leaving the seedling in the ground. And then basically, if I do this, it's not going to disturb the tapping root, which is basically why you can't germinate seeds off the ground. Now, a lot of people have said they've had problems with germinating parsnips. They're not the easiest thing to grow in the world, to be honest with you. Now, I always grow at least sort of 3 varieties. Now, this year I've actually got 4 different types to put in, and I'll just explain. I always put in at least 3 types. The first one is, now I bought these from Wilco's, and this is Javelin F1, and they're basically the Wilco's brand of seed. I don't know if you can see that. The next one's from Thomas & Morgan, and this is the Albion F1 hybrid. And to be honest with you, if you do struggle with parsnips, I would suggest you go for an F1 hybrid, because they're more likely to grow, I think. The next one's from the Urban Garden collection, and this is Parsnip Arrow. I'm also going to be putting those in. And the last one is from Sutton Seeds, and this is White Gem parsnips. So that's the last variety. Now, what I'm going to be doing this year is I'm going to be planting all 4 of these varieties, and I'm going to be planting all 4 of these varieties in 3 different ways to try and show people which is the best way to do it. Now, the way I normally do it is, with parsnips you have to dig the ground really well. You've got to go down at least sort of 12 inches, if not 18 inches, because obviously you want the tapping root to go down. And basically what I do is rotivate the ground so it's all nice and you know, loose and fluffy. And then what you do, as soon as you've dug it, rake the ground over, which I'll show you in a moment. And then you form a drill which is about an inch deep, which is basically just a line in the ground. Now, you can do this by raking the ground level, and then just getting a stick and going along with the stick in the line that you want the seeds to go. And then basically what you need to do is, without touching the seeds by hand, so rip the seed packet open and just tap them in from the seed, you know, basically just tap them in off the packet like that, along the row. And what I try to do is put one seed, at least one seed, about every 2 inches. Because what you will do is you'll go back and you'll thin them out. As soon as you've got them in the ground, then you just need to pinch the soil back over the seed, so you've literally got about half an inch or a centimetre or so of soil over the seed. Then water them once. As soon as you've watered them, get yourself some bubble wrap. I'll show you this later on. Put some bubble wrap in the on top of the ground. Just weight it down with a couple of bricks if you're in a windy area, and that will create enough heat in the ground to germinate the seeds. Now, the one key thing with parsnips is when to sow them. What you need to do is look at the weather forecast and make sure that you've got at least a week's worth of reasonable weather ahead. Nice warm weather. Now, I've looked at the forecast this week, so I know it's the right time to do it. And I've got, this week is going to be sort of in the 18, 19, 20 temperatures. On Tuesday we can possibly go up to 26 degrees. So I know this week's going to be the best week for germinating parsnips. What you might get, even though you followed all of that, is always have a contingency plan. Try and save some of the seeds back, and then if it hasn't germinated in a month's time, because it can take 3 to 4 weeks for these to germinate, then basically sow again in exactly the same way, in exactly the same place. But basically now is the right time to be sowing these if you're in the same kind of latitude as Britain, or you got the same kind of weather. Now, as I say, I'm growing 4 different types, and what I'm going to do is, in the same row, I'm going to sow all 4 types of seeds. So I'm going to be sowing these seeds along the row, then in exactly the same place I'm going to sow these seeds, then these, then finally the Sutton seeds. And the reason I do that is sometimes you find some varieties will germinate, others won't. But these are most certainly the ones that you need to you know, sort of, you need to be putting at least 3, if not 4 varieties in. That's honestly the best thing that I can suggest. So in addition to that, as a backup plan, what I'm also going to do is germinate some in the greenhouse. So that's where this thing comes in, and I made this a couple of months ago, so if you look back, I'll possibly put the link at the bottom so you can go to that video to see how it's made. But basically it's just 2 pieces of plastic with holes obviously drilled in, top and bottom, and then this is just the side off a Coca-Cola bottle, or any pop bottle really. So basically all you need to do is get a bottle, if I can find one. Basically just get a normal bottle like this. This is a Fanta bottle. Cut around the bottom there, and then cut about here so it's the right depth. You need these to be at least sort of 7, 8, 9 inches long, because obviously the tapping root's going to go through here to the bottom. So these need to be at least, I would suggest, 9 inches high. Don't make them any shorter than that. So what I'm going to do now is just very quickly stop the video, and I'm going to fill each of these with compost. Okay, so that's the all of the cells filled now. All I've done with this is I've put in a very fine potting compost. You don't want anything that's too coarse like Miracle Grow, something like that. What I've used is this kind of clover compost, which is really fine. It's great for seeds and stuff like that. I would imagine if you haven't got compost like that, you can put sort of John and his Neil's John and his Neil number 1, or potentially 2. But what you want is, you want a fine compost with absolutely no stones in it at all. You can possibly have a little bit of sand in there, but you know, you don't want to have anything like that. No, basically any stones, because that will disturb the roots. So what I've done is, as I've put the compost in here, what I've done is made sure that it's completely broken up, and I've got an indention in the top of each one, which is about probably about half an inch or so deep. And what I've done is I've half filled them and then just tapped it down gently with my finger, because what I don't want to do is, when I first water it, for them all to sink. You know, I want the compost to be reasonably firm in there, but not too firm. So you can just see the top. In fact, what I'll do is I'll bring the camera out here so you can see a bit better. So there's the top of the each one, and as you can see, the compost is all the way down to the bottom, to there. Okay, so I'll just put the camera back again. Right, okay, so what I'm going to do, into each one of these now, I'm going to sow a couple of seeds. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the F1 hybrid seeds, which I'm going to put these ones in, Thomas and Morgan, and what I'll be doing is just putting a one or two of these seeds in each one at the top. And if I can just show you the seeds. Now it's really important to note that I am not touching the seeds with my hands, so what you're going to have to do is just sort of see them in the packet. I don't know if you can see that, possibly not, it might be too dark. Let's just bring the camera around again. Hang on 2 seconds. This is not easy with one hand, but if you can see the seeds there, that's what parsnip seeds look like. Now what I'm going to be doing is now tapping 1 or 2 of those into each of the cells. Oh, sorry, let's put the camera back. So, I'm not touching the seeds at all. I'm just putting 1 or 2 in, and what I will do is, in fact, I'm getting, oh my god, I'm getting loads of them. Right, there's loads coming out of there. So what I'm going to do is, just with a pair of tweezers, I'm going to pull them out and just distribute them around these last few. So I'm just going to stop the camera for a moment. Right, so as you can see there now, what I've got is 2 or 3 seeds in each one. That one's actually got 4. But I've got 2 or 3 seeds in each one of the cells, and all I'm going to do now is just with just a little pinch of compost. I'm just going to cover those seeds over. not putting too sort of much on there. Basically what you want to end up with is kind of a centimetre or so, I guess, of compost on the top, and you want to make sure there's no kind of lumps in there. So I'm just going to tidy that up, but you get the sort of main idea. And then as soon as you've done that, what I'm doing is just sort of patting them down. I need to get a little bit more soil for those first two there, but just sort of tap them down like that. There we go. So I'll just fill up these front few here, and I'll give that a watering. So that's basically putting the parsnips in the greenhouse, and I'll show you in a video this week how to put them in the ground as well. Okay, so I'm going to try something slightly different this year. These are the swede seeds that I got from Wilco's the other day, and what I'm going to do this year is, last year they didn't grow particularly well. For one reason or another. So what I'm going to do is what I've been advised to do by one of my fellow allotmenteers, that basically he basically plants his into little seed compartments like this, and then he basically starts them off in his greenhouse. And to be honest with you, he had a really good crop last year, so I'm most certainly going to take his advice. So basically, all you need to do with the lollipop stick, put the compost in the trays, and then what you want to do is make hang on, got a bit of a stick stuck in there. You just want to make a hole which is about sort of a centimetre or so deep with a lollipop stick. Now, I'm likely to get more sort of swede plants than I need here, but I'd rather have too many than not enough, and the seeds are hardly expensive. So and basically what he does is he starts his off like this, and then transplants them straight into the ground like this in about a month's time. So what I've got, the compost I've got here is a mixture of the clover and the Miracle Grow compost. The Miracle Grow compost is slightly more sort of coarse, there's some sort of larger bits in there. And I'll just get to the end of this row, then I'll show you the seeds. The same as most sort of little black light mustard seeds, you know, most brassicas are the same really, or things from the brassica family. And I'm just putting a couple of seeds in each one. So I guess really, you know, if you kind of weigh this up, it's probably more economical on your seeds than anything else. You know, I mean, the one thing that I always think about is you don't really want to have too much stuff going in your greenhouse, because you don't really want to be running out of room. And so what you can plant outside is best to go outside. But having said that, last year the Swedes didn't do very well, so I'm going to give them the best chance I can this year. It'd be nice to have a good crop. So as I say, I'm just putting 2 seeds in each one of these compartments, and I'll just do the last couple. So I'll most certainly have enough seeds left there for next year. So you know, what I'd typically do is sow the entire packet of seeds up the row. But by doing this, well, actually saying that, I've probably got enough for 2 years now. I don't know how long these seeds will last, but they've got till 2017. So right, so those are the sweet. Now all I'm going to do now is just with a bit of the clover compost. Now this is why this is good for seeds. As you can see, it's really quite loose. What I'm doing is just pouring a bit over. Don't need to be too fussy about this, because obviously the seeds are in holes, so I'm not going to slice them. And what I'm going to do is put these in the greenhouse. They don't need to go under glass or anything, because it's getting quite warm now. Today it's actually 21 degrees in the greenhouse at the moment, so they'll most certainly germinate in that. So that's the Swedes done. Obviously label them up so you know what's going on. What I'm going to do is just give them a quick little bit of water. Obviously, because they're a centimetre or so down, you need to give them a reasonably good sort of soak. Obviously, as I've said, use tap water, because you don't want any water with bacteria in it. most certainly when they're germinating, because that's you know, one of the major causes of things not germinating, apart from obviously temperature and stuff. But you know, when you get bacteria in water, I don't know what's going on with this jet. But so just give them a reasonably sort of good bit of water, and then I'll put these in the greenhouse and wait for them to germinate. And by rights, they should be up in a week or so, because most brassicas will germinate reasonably quickly in the greenhouse. So that's the swedes for this year, and I'll be putting these out in about a month's time. If you look on the seed packet, it actually says that you're supposed to put them out in May. Obviously this is the start of April, so they'll be just about ready to go out. So I was going to put these on a quiet corner in the greenhouse, and I'll just keep them watered over the next few weeks. So that's the swedes. Okay, so onto the kale. This year I'm doing Sutton's. This is curly kale, dwarf green curled, and this stuff's really good, to be honest with you. Now, last year I grew the purple kale, and to be honest with you, the purple is not so good. It's nice, you know, it's a nice looking plant whilst it's growing. However, when you cook it, it turns out green anyway, and the green's a little bit more tender, so I'd advise you go for the green, to be honest with you. There's 400 seeds in here. Now, I'm not going to be growing too much of this. Really, I only need sort of a couple of rows or so, so I'll probably need around probably about 30-40 plants, which will do me more than well. So half a tray is all I need, really. So I'm just going to bob them in here. Then what I'll do is I'll prick them out exactly like the others, the other broccoli and stuff like that, the other brassicas that I grow in the greenhouse. So again, the seeds look the same. You know, you can't tell one from the other really. But I'm going to be putting probably about 50 seeds in here. I mean, in each packet there's 350 seeds, so this will last me quite a bit, to be honest with you. Now, I'm sprinkling them as evenly as I can over the top. You know, try not to get them too close together if you can help it. Now, some people actually space these out, which I've done in the past, but I'm just going to bob these in like that. So if you do see any that are reasonably close together, you know, so just try and spread them out as best you can, and you know, that's you know, half a tray is more than enough for 50 plants really. Now all I'm going to do is just put a little handful of compost over the top. What I tend to do with the brassicas is, because they have quite long, or sort of reasonably long tapping roots going down, I'll try to fill the trays as much as possible. You know, don't go sparingly with the compost with these. So that's the first type of kale. As I say, that's the green curly leaf kale. So I'll be saving those seeds for next year. So what I always do, and a really good tip, is the bit that you take off the top, always put that inside as well, so you know, so if there's any bits that you're missing with the writing, so they'll be good for next year. The other type is the stuff I've actually already put in. Now, if you remember, I put this in a couple of weeks ago, sorry, 3 weeks ago, and some of it's come up, as you can see, but to be honest with you, one half the tray just hasn't really bothered. I've had a couple of slugs in the greenhouse. I've actually killed a couple this morning. I've got my trusty slug tannoy out. Get off the plants! And then I put my foot on them. Anyway, so they're the kale. These ones that I've grown are okay, even though they've been attacked by slugs a little bit. They've had a few here, which is a shame. But what I'm going to do is put in some more. Now again, because I'm growing a few different types, all I'm going to do is put them in these little trays here. Now, sorry, just shut the door, it's getting a bit windy now. There'll be enough in these. I mean, that's basically the same as that tray that I've just put the other kale in. As I say, I've already put some of these in. Again, don't go sparingly with the compost. You know, try and fill the trays as much as you can to the top. You know, the compost will settle down after you've watered it a few times anyway, and you want plenty of room for the roots, so when you're pricking them out, you know, the roots aren't too sort of tangled up. And I'm going to be putting probably about Again, about 50 seeds in here. As I say, I've probably got about 15-20 plants over there. So what I'm doing is just pouring, these are just to sort of add. Don't be tempted to put more seeds in the same tray, to be honest with you, because what you can get when you water the seeds, always use tap water, as I've said. This is because in your water butts will most certainly be sort of algae and bacteria and stuff like that, and you don't really want that to be in contact with the seeds. Now, obviously, when the plants have started to grow, then I'll start to water them with the water out of the water butt, which is exactly what I've done with that. So I don't know if you can see, but on the top of there's a slight sheen of sort of green. I don't know if you can see that in the light, but there's like a sort of greeny sort of colours on top. Now that's algae that's come out of the water butt. Now that can be seen as a sign of overwatering, to be honest with you. But because we've had weather that we've had over the last week or so, it's been roasting hot. I mean, in the greenhouse at the moment it's actually 30 degrees. I've got well, I've only just shut the door and I've had the windows open as well. So all I've done there is sprinkled on a little bit of compost, all of the, just a couple of millimetres or so. So all I've put is kind of that much in my hand, and you end up with about a millimetre or two over the top of the seeds. All you need to do basically with the brassicas is make sure that they're covered. If they're covered, it's all good, because basically all you need to do is keep the seed wet. Just put a little bit more on there, and just sort of gently firm that down. And that's the kale. Obviously, remember to label. Put a label in so you know what's what, and water them with tap water at least until they start to germinate, and then as soon as they start to germinate, then obviously you can switch over to your water butt water, so save you keep going down to the tap. So I hope this episode of Jim's Allotment Garden has been of some use to you. Please do put any comments, questions you've got below, and thank you to all of the subscribers that have subscribed in the last few months. I do appreciate your support for the channel. Please do subscribe below if you haven't already, so you can get the latest updates from Jim's Allotment Garden, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thank you, bye bye now.